Hello Gunters. The problem of armor building in Monster Hunter Sunbreak are two. The first is that what you can do is highly ruled by randomness on your curious and talismans, and those will vastly decide which decorations you are crafting and using. And the second one is that there are too many good skills you may wish to include in your build. In the past you had most of your build forced for the must-have skills of artillery, load shells, guard and so on, so after these you only could had a couple of extra skills. In Sunbreak things aren't that simple because there are dozens of good and great skills that not only increase your damage output but they can even change the way you play the game. This video is about a breakdown of skills, for what kind of builds is best and how you can add them to your armor build the easiest way. Talking about gear, I'm collaborating with TomTalk, who has launched a series of Monster Hunter Rise bags that are already available on Amazon. I personally dig the designs of the Palico and well done steak ones. They got me the Palico and Palamutes ones, and they are big enough to fit a whole Steam Deck inside, and if it fits a Steam Deck, it can fit anything. You can find the links to Amazon US and UK in the description of the video. Now let's get back to the talk of Sunbreak's gear. For the most basic of skills you are adding to your set, it doesn't matter what, artillery and load shells don't have many options available. The very best armor piece for both is the Renoplo's arms. It got 2 points of artillery, 1 of load shells, 2 slots and special ammo that is perfect for enhancing with the skill plus augmentation. Combined with being low budget means that it is not hard to get a good roll going of 2 rare unique skills. The only problem with the armor piece is that it doesn't have any kind of exclusive skill and that the base defense rate is low. Artillery is considered a S-tier skill for talismans and curious armor roll, and that makes it undesirable for both, and your preferred option for filing artillery will be decorations. Talismans only can roll 2 points in the second position, and while you can have 3 in the first position, we are going to see better options since this is a skill with level 4 deco and that takes level 2 decos. Rolling this as your first skill makes the second skill worse. So, for artillery, your best options are using Renoplo's arms or using decorations. Let me be clear about this one thing. For optimal builds you don't want shinny skills in your curious rolls because these consume either 12 or 15 hidden budget points, and Elder Dragon armors only have 10, so this means if you get one of these your armor must give up something like skills, defense or resistances. While no shinny skills like load shells, powder mantle or recovery up allows you to get rolled without penalties or to get 2 useful skills with a few penalties that are more value for less. Decorations on the other hand, a decoration for artillery is the same as a decoration for recovery up. Your slots should be filled with the rarest skills you can fit there. Load shells is a low budget skill, and so its perfect place is as a curious roll alongside other useful roll. Otherwise I would go for a level 4 decoration for both points. Evade Extender in the past was one of the highest must-have skills in the game, but with the inclusion of Reverse Blast Dash this is no longer the case because Reverse Blast Dash is better as both a way of evasion and movement than Evade Extender. If you still want some Evade Extender, since you only really want 2 points since 3 is too much, then as a level 4 slot decoration or as a talisman roll in the second position it is more than enough. Then second on priority I would say those attack skills, then synergies with both shelling and melee attacks. The highlights of these skills are Sneak Attack and Powder Mantle. Sneak Attack is as good as artillery for pure shelling builds. You can get to the back of monsters using Reverse Blast and then get a 20% extra damage that stacks with everything, so is the second most powerful skill for shelling after artillery and load shells. For mixed melee builds is still a very good skill since it allows you to keep attacking if you get the monster back and still do decent damage. Sneak Attack can get all 3 points as a talisman or be slotted as decorations since there are level 4 decos available. I like having it as decorations because you can freely remove it if the monster is not going to give you its back. Powder Mantle is more tame but universally useful. Its synergies with Erupting Cannon getting the 30% bonus, so in GUNLANCE powder is even more useful. You want level 3 for every build except when you are focusing in Bullet Barrage that can get it activated with 1 barrage. With level 3 it will be active faster and you will get the payoff earlier. If you are playing wide, go level 3 or nothing, since without level 3 it will take too much time to activate to have any kind of impact in the hunt. The best pieces of armor that include the skill are Rise Teostra Helm and Chest. These are solid because they also have Weakness Exploit and Critical Eye. The other option that is usually the one I use is augmenting it into armor since it is considered low budget. I even got sometimes the high roll of having both wind and powder mantle in one piece of armor that is universally useful for every single GUNLANCE build. Frostcraft, while affecting shelling, is not as universally useful because it has huge anti-synergies with Ground Splitter, Frenzy Berserker and Wind Mantle. GUNLANCE is a weapon where you never want to put away your weapon, and this is what Frostcraft wants you to do. There are still two niches where I like Frostcraft that are pure shelling builds with wide or bullet barrage spam builds with long GUNLANCE. These builds use little to none melee attacks and you get room to fit Frostcraft. In these, Frostcraft is used as a kind of replacement from Ground Splitter once you get hit and need to use a wirebug recovery that will disable your Ground Splitter. Frostcraft can roll as Curious or as a talisman, but only of Vigor Melding. The talisman is no doubt the least intrusive and best way to get it, since you need all the 3 points to have it be useful. Hellfire is another of the staple of GUNLANCE. You need 3 points at least, with 4 being ideal against afflicted monsters who don't stay enraged all the time. It has two main effects. First, you will knock a monster the first time you use it while enraged, and then every time you reverse blast dash, that is a lot, you will deal about 100 additional damage. That is okay. It is the kind of skill you never will regret adding to your build. 1 point requires a level 3 slot, so it is better to get it with level 4 decorations, then is an excellent option for talismans, since you can get all 4 points as a primary skill and 3 as a secondary skill. That value is equivalent to 4 level 3 skills. Hellfire also has a big synergy with Coalescence. Pick 1 point of Coalescence as a decoration and is almost always active. 12 extra raw being a 1 point wonder skill like Burst. Silkbind actions are the backbone of GUNLANCE and Sunbreak. They buff your damage, they allow you to evade and move, you can guard stuff, you get more wyvern fires, and you can blast things with bullet barrage. You always want to have as many wirebugs as possible, and this is the most reliable way. For that we have 4 skills that helps you with wirebugs. Wirebug Whisperer is considered a lot tier skill, and that means you can get 3 points as the second skill in your talisman. There aren't many skills that allow 3 points there, so this is the perfect roll. Even as a first roll is nice since it is considered low rarity and you get good options for the second one. Other than talismans, my recommendation is using the Risen Kushala helm. That is one of the best headpieces in the game. You get all 3 points plus Wind Mantle and good slots. Kushala augmented with a second Wind Mantle basically makes your wirebug recovery top notch. Now that we are mentioning it, Wind Mantle is another of the best skills you even want to use with GUNLANCE. Wind Mantle at level 3 has 10% boosted wirebug recovery, and by hitting the enemies can be boosted up to an insane 40% extra. Since it's based on numbers of hit, you can get very easily levels 2 and 3 with full burst or stakes. So this is a very desirable skill for all shell types. This skill has no decorations, and the only 3 ways to get it are by native armor, talisman and curious roll. The best native armor for this skill is the Risen Kushala helm, but that will only give you 1 point. I love getting this skill in curious rolls because it is considered a common roll. The most optimal would be getting all 3 points in a talisman, but this is a very rare roll. You only can get this skill in the Curious Vigor Melding, so it is totally random, and the rarity is A. That is the second rarest of all. I never have found one talisman with all 3 points. The third skill of the Wirebug family is Frenzied Berserker. Frenzied Berserker is exactly like Wind Mantle. It has no decorations and only can roll in the Vigor Talisman Melding. Thankfully, you can get it with Curious now. Frenzied Berserker is awesome since it guarantees that you will have at least 3 wirebugs, so you don't have to scout the area searching for one, or you can get 4 going at once. With all 3 skills, having 4 wirebugs is a big overkill unless you are very happy trigger with Bullet Barrage. The only armor pieces with the skill are from the Risen Shagaru Magala set. The arms and belt are exceptional armor pieces with attack boost 3 and weakness exploit 2 to the point that you can use them directly. The legs are a bit worse with just Strife. That is a good skill but is not a must-have. Frenzy Berserker at 2 gives you an extra wirebug for the whole duration of the Bloodlust effect, as long you don't put away your weapon. Like 3 makes it easier to have the extra wirebug in case of error or while you activate Bloodlust again. I consider 2 enough myself, so the biggest recommendation would be going both arms and belts. Frenzy Berserker can now also roll in Curious or Talismans in Vigor Melding. This is good if you want to get multiple levels of Heaven Sent, since there is some conflict between both skills. So, to make it brief, for the Wirebug skills I would prioritize Wirebug Whisperer in absolutely every build. Wind Mantle is useful for everything and is the second priority. The only set I would not say it is must-have is with a guard-based wide style, since it does not need as much wirebug, since you can defend with guard reload over using reverse blast over and over. Finally, Frenzy Berserker, I would try to go for level 2, not only because it is a great skill but also because of how good the arms and belt of Kisen Shagaru armor. The least priority is with pure shelling wide build, since they don't want any of the skills of the armor. In these, use the skill as a curious or as a talisman. After the basis of shelling damage and wirebug buffing, we must add to our build ways to handle sharpness. In the last update we got the ultimate solution to sharpness, Heaven Sent. As long as you stay without getting a big hit for 15 or 30 seconds, you will get the power to get back 50 sharpness just swapping around blue and red scrolls, and not only that, you will also full reload, and if you have level 3, recover most status effects. This makes keeping white sharpness very easy as long you don't get hurt too much. And frankly, if you get hit that much, then you are going to die fast. The only problem with Heaven Sent is that it is exclusive to the Amatsu armor and there is just no other way to get it. You should try to settle for 1 point at least, and for that there is nothing better than the feet, since they include critical boost 2. The second best piece is the chest with critical boost 1, but you can take the arms and use skill plus augmentation to exchange latent power for any other skill. You can get Heaven Sent 2 and Frenzy Berserker 2 with Amatsu chest and legs and Risen Shagaru arms and belt for an awesome template with Weakness Exploit 2, Critical Boost 3 and Attack Boost 3, basically being the ultimate set if you want to melee. The other ways to handle sharpness are a lot worse. Razor Sharp is inferior to Protective Polish because the rate at which GUNLANCE consumes sharpness and Protective Polish, while is the second best, has no good armors. With the skill you can fit easily. Both skill also have an extra added cost in that you need speed sharpening, that means either 3 level 1 slots or a level 4 one. So you will need like 2 level 4 decorations and 1 level 2 to match sharpness, similar to a single point of Heaven Sent. So, your priority is 100% using a piece of Amatsu for Heaven Sent, and if it is not possible, go for Protective Polish and speed sharpening. You can get Protective Polish with either decoration, curious and talismans being an average option of all these. Now the fourth category of skill is what I call the active defense, that is evasion and guard skills. First of all, evasion window is currently an absolute trash skill and you should avoid taking it unless you end up with some free points for whatever reason. There are many reasons for it, but the most important are reverse blast dash, redirection and emboldenment. Evading iframes got nerfed in Monster Hunter Rise and its base value is terrible. Reverse blast dash has a lot more iframes without having to invest a single point. And if you have to invest points, a single point of redirection will also give you more iframes, plus if you get level 2 you gain some wirebug after redirecting an attack. The other reason is that emboldenment at level 3 includes the effect of evade window 5 and they don't stack together. For GUNLANCE, emboldenment is much better because it also gives you the equivalent to guard 5 and it also stacks with guard. So, if you are hellbent into classic evading, use emboldenment. Guarding has the same problem as evasion in that reverse blast is the best option but still is more useful than evade because it is very reliable to evade against some attacks. What really makes guarding useful is nothing else than guard reload that is fast and allows you a 2-per-1 action of defending and reloading that is something you must do anyways. Both the skill guard and emboldenment stack together. It is a long theme I have covered in the past, but guarding consists in a check of your shield guarding value against an impact value of the monster attack. Your guarding value get boosted by 10 for every level of emboldenment and in guard with the levels 1, 3 and 5. This means up to plus 60 guard, and with that almost no monster will cause Mayor Flinch stun and the rest will cause medium. If you want to settle for an average value, I recommend the combination of guard 1 and emboldenment 2. If you are in multiplayer, do not go with just pure emboldenment since you will not benefit if the monster is not targeting you, and you will have in that case no extra guarding. With guard 1 and emboldenment 2 you also avoid the empty levels of guard 2 and 4. This being said, guard is very easy to max. You can get talismans with all 5 points and level 3 guard decorations give you plus 2 points, so guard is really like a skill of 1 level 2 and 2 level 3 points. So these are the optimal ways to get maxed guard, a level 2 and 2 level 3 decorations, or using a talisman with all 5 points. About guard up is frankly terrible. You need 3 points to negate most chip damage and almost no monster have unblockable attacks beyond the supernova, then are rare attacks and you can just reverse blast dash out of danger. The only good use of Guard Up is when combined with Guard Edge, since it will enable guarding against unblockable attacks without losing a single point of health. You can also replace Guard Up with Redirection, that also works against unblockables. So basically the most valuable skills are Emboldenment and Redirection, followed up by Guard, and then Evade Window and Guard Up are in the trash bin. I don't consider Evade Extender a defensive skill since it is used as a movement boost most of the time. As said before, while it is no doubt good, Reverse Blast makes it a bit obsolete. About melee damage skills, the top priority is as always to get Critical Boost 3 and 100% effective affinity. Critical Boost has the issue of being a high rarity skill for Curious and Talismans and the lack of a level 4 skill. The feat of Amatsu armor with Heaven Sent and Critical Boost 2 is without a single doubt the very best way to get points of the skill, so you only need then a level 2 slot. For Weakness Exploit, likewise there is no level 4 deco. The best pieces of armor are the Risen Teostra helm and chest or Risen Magala belt. These give you other useful skills like Frenzy Berserker and Bloodlust or Powder Mantle and Critical Eye. I don't value Critical Eye too much in Sunbreak because of all the other options we got. For example, the mentioned Bloodlust once active is worth 20% affinity, that is equivalent to 4 whole points of Critical Eye. Bloodlust comes with any piece with Frenzy Berserk. You normally need just 1 point, but getting more is not useless, since every time you activate Bloodlust the next time you will need more hits, and more levels reduces the amount of hits you need. Likewise, Maximum Might is very good for GUNLANCE builds that doesn't require guarding and are based around moving and evading with Reverse Blast Dash. It can get level 4 decorations for 20% affinity. The last good skill for affinity is Agitator, since monsters will stay enraged most of the fight except for afflicted monsters when you remove the affliction. The full skill is 15% affinity and some attack, and you get level 4 decos. But the best way to get Agitator is no doubt using a talisman, since it can roll 4 points as the first skill, being then one of the best skills for a talisman in the game. With 0 affinity, I try to go with Weakness Exploit 3 for 50 affinity, Bloodlust for 20, Agitator for 15, and then from 1 to 3 points of Max Might. Going a bit over 100 is worth it if you have some conditional activations, so you will get 100% if either Bloodlust or Agitator aren't active. After the staple 100% affinity with Critical Boost 3, the best is getting Attack Boost to 7. In the past I was ultra happy with getting Attack Boost 3 and a Talisman being one of the best roll possible. But with the latest updates is no longer crazy, since there are lots of options with 3 or 4 points. Curious Crafting is also terrible because Attack Boost has the highest budget possible. So the best option left are being native in armor or as decorations. For decorations there are level 4 decos, and armors usually have 3 points. The best armors with Attack Boost are Kisa and Kushala belt and Risen Shagaru arms. Risen Shagaru arms have Bloodlust and Frenzy Berserker, so it is very good. I usually go for this and 2 level 4 decorations to get the full effects. With this, you will have covered all the melee damage you need for most of your builds. There are still other skills you can add, but all of these have big restrictions or backdraws. The most useful of these is Build Up Boost, which have 2 catches. The biggest one is that the damage bonus is not as big as it looks like, since only will trigger when you deal status damage, so the 20% is more like 6.7% melee damage, and you must consider that doesn't apply to shell attacks or Reverse Blast Shield Slam, so is really not much effective. It is still must have if you are using a status GUNLANCE, but by my tests this serves to make status weapons virtually tie with raw ones. Status Trigger is not worth using with GUNLANCE because it lasts not much time, and GUNLANCE right now is more about evading with a Reverse Blast Dash than anything else. It is going to be a dead skill for most of the hunt. Blood Awakening is another great skill with 40 points, and if you want an optimal GUNLANCE set you must consider it, but one big fatal flaw is that you can't have any single point of Heaven Sent, since the pieces of armor of both overlap. So you get big extra damage but say goodbye to the easy sharpness management, so you now have to spend a lot of points in Protective Polish, Speed Sharpening, and to remember to manage it. Likewise, skills like Derelict and Mail of Hellfire have step penalties to your survival and aren't easy to slot. Both best options are using talismans or with curious rolls. Dragon Conversion is great, but only for the proper elemental wide build. And finally, Peak Performance, Mind Eye and Counter Attack are good but very conditional. Strife is also another great skill, but once again you must build around it. I say that the best final attack skills to add to your build after Powder Mantle, Sneak Attack, Attack Boost, Build-up boost and critical boost are 1 point of burst and coalescence. Both provide attack bonuses without any kind of backdraw. We only have 2 categories left, utility skills and damage reduction. Note that I personally dislike the terms quality of life or comfy for those skills, since the term assumes these are replaceable if your skill level is enough, but these can be used to raise your damage output and shorten your hunts. The king of these skills are Defiance. Defiance basically makes earplugs, wind and tremor protection useless. Just at level 1 is enough for low roars like Maizutsune, and at level 3 protects against every roar but the strongest ones, and the best thing is that only takes level 1 slots. Basically this is the skill you use whatever you have spare level 1 skills, and nobody will question you getting up to 3 with higher slots. Intrepid Heart is another level 1 1-point wonder. This skill is a must-have if you are using Heaven Sent, since it allows you to erase one mistake that would disable the skill. The explosion is neat, but I don't see myself weaponizing it. The final level 1 1-point wonder is Spirit Bird Caller. The effect is kinda mild, being 1 spirit bird per minute of hunt, and of course is useless in arena-type hunts. I take it when I also eat for the spirit bird food, since both synergies and you double the effect of the bird you got. The last great level 1 skill is Kushala Dewara Blessing, that gives you super regeneration at 3 points. This regeneration has some problems like not working if you have Blood Blight or if you have red health. The best way to get this skill is with Risen Kushala Belt, that also includes full recovery up and some attack boost. And let not forget about Shockproof, that is a must-have in multiplayer to not grief or getting griefed. You always will end up filling your spare level 1 slot with these skills. Swap them around depending what you're fighting in your other skills. 2 important level 1 slot mentions are Bombardier and Camellia's Blessing. I'm very fond of Bombardier because of how powerful explosions you can get if you also eat Pyro Dengo. I always try to pair Frostcraft and Bombardier together because you can wait for the Frostcraft gauge to fill placing bombs. Camellia's is great if you are going for poison. This being said, at this moment poison is not great when you compare it with something like Powder Mantle that doesn't become worse and worse the further you go into the hunt. Endgame monsters have over 100,000 health and poison is just too slow to make a difference. Furthermore, if you are using a long or normal gunlance focused on spamming slow attacks like Sweep and Slam. Also remember that you can't do status with the shield bash of Reverse Blast Dash. Fortify is incredibly good when you are facing a special investigation or very hard monsters. Consider this: if the skill is not activated, that means you cleared the hunt perfectly. If you activate it, then you will greatly decrease the chances of getting carded a second or third time. A 10% extra damage is just nearly as good as Attack Boost 7. This skill is better got as a decoration or as a second curious role since it is low budget. Recovery Up is maybe one of the most underrated skills in the whole game. It boosts every single source of healing in the game. This includes the Blood Blight effect, the super recovery of gourmet fishes and Kushala Blessing, and of course potions. Better than going out of your way to get Blood Right 3, consider Blood Right 1 or 2 paired with some Recovery Up for a more rounded up healing. The increased healing also is ultra useful when fighting afflicted monsters, since offsets the penalty to damage you are getting with Blood Blight. And of course, it makes it easier to activate the Blood Awakening skill. Blood Right is also must-have if you are using Blood Awakening, since if you aren't fighting an afflicted monster, then this will be the only way to activate the skill. And finally, to finish this kind of build you will need some Part Breaker. Thanks goodness the regular and prime Maltsino armor provides a lot of points for these. Recovery Up is low budget for talismans and an excellent second skill to roll. In Curious Armor, melding the skill has an incredibly low budget, and luckily you can roll it alongside another skill. If you are going healing, then Berserk can be an interesting skill. You can achieve true immortality with it as long you don't get Blood Blight. With the last update you can get the points in talismans or Curious. Outside of self-healing there is the group of party healing and buffing. The whole package are wide range, speed eating, free meal and speed sheathing. These are a lot of skills, and while you can get 4 points of wide range with just a level 4 decoration, you will need to sacrifice skills to make it work. I consider only going for support if playing as a pure shelling build. Well, bullet barrage spamming or wire shelling spam, since you will just need to replace your affinity and attack boost with these. Please, don't forget about Shockproof. To finish the roundup of healing and utility, don't forget about Breath. That skill is godlike in that it heals everything that can be healed. All blights, Poison including deadly, defense down. The only important things it doesn't heal is the frenzy but removes a chunk, giving you more time to cure it, and blood blight. That is more a blessing than a curse. The only reason why I don't use breath more is because it also cures hellfire, and that is not good since you lose the damage and the damage bonus from coalescence. The final skills I want to talk about are defense boost and divine blessing. Both believed to take the same room in your build, since you can max defense boost with a level 4 and a level 2 deco just like divine blessing. Divine blessing is a bit more effective. On average equals a 16% damage reduction, while defense boost is just between 11 and 12%. So if you want to pick one or other, you must decide about less outcome but total reliability, or a huge damage reduction that has less than a half to happen. I prefer the reliability of defense boost because I would rather take a 100% chance of surviving a monster supernova versus a 60% chance of taking massive damage. But this is a personal pick. What is important about these skills is that damage reduction is really a healing boost. The reasoning is simple: if you take 10% less damage, that means your healing will need to heal 10% less. So the damage reduction greatly synergies with blood right builds, where you can use ground splitter or reverse blast dash or bullet barrage to super armor attacks. These will reduce the damage and allow you to attack ignoring the damage you get, since you will heal it back by attacking. Less time wasted evading or blocking attacks means more time hitting the monster and dealing damage. Damage reduction can increase your damage output. And with this I have covered every single important skill in the game, their importance and how is the best way to take it. If this is too much, here you have some sample builds I have used with these principles. And with these I'm closing the video. What are your favorite skills that you recommend everyone? Do you think I'm not doing justice to any skill? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you in the hunt.